Hello everybody and welcome back to the Not Applicable Formula One channel. I hope that you're well. Let's talk Williams. They've finally announced who is going to be taking the reins of their team for the 2023 season and hopefully beyond is James Vowels from the Mercedes setup taking charge of the Williams team. And Williams revealed that the Mercedes strategist will take the place of Jos Capito as their new team boss, completing the recent merry-go-round of Formula One changes. Has been a little bit crazy on the Formula One grid recently, with a lot of team bosses changing their positions in the Formula One teams, but it seems to have settled down, and James Vowels now comes into Williams for the 2023 season. So what I want to discuss with you guys is why James Vowels has decided to take this job at Williams, what he can actually offer the Williams setup moving forward, and then let's talk about some of the challenges that he's going to face coming into this Williams setup and trying to drag them off the bottom of the Constructors' Championship. So who is James Vowels? Well, as I touched on before, he's Mercedes chief strategist. Toto Wolff even said he had a massive contribution in not only what is happening during the races, but also in terms of the global strategy of the team at Mercedes Motorsport in general. And the fact that he has this high praise from Toto Wolff shows that he was a very, very leading figure in that team. This is then backed up by not only Toto Wolff, but the team itself making a statement on James as well. They said James has played a key part in the team over the past decade, playing an integral role in success in recent years. And the fact that he's been with that team for a decade, and the fact that he was actually there before Mercedes, he was part of the Brawn group, he was part of the Honda group, he has been integrated into Formula One for 21 years now and has seen all of the highs and the lows, won multiple championships, but also been there through the roughest times with the roughest teams along the way as well. He has seen it all, and I think that's something that going into Williams is really going to help him moving forward, which is probably why he seems so cool, calm and collected with the fact he is moving into a Williams team and becoming a Formula One boss for the first time. In his words, he says he doesn't think it's a massive leap forward. He seems fairly comfortable with the move. He talked to Williams for over a month or so before deciding to make that decision. He talked to Toto Wolff as well, but he said that it really, from both sides, both Williams and myself, we concluded that the fit is very, very good. After a number of meetings with the board, we actually found a way of working, a way of thinking, a way of approaching things, culture, people, systems, an incredibly aligned system that he has going forward. And I think that's the main thing. When you're the team boss, when the buck stops with you, you have to be able to give people in your team that ability to just express themselves. You have to be able to give the drivers the ability to show off their best. You have to be able to give your strategists the ability to show off their potential and get the best out of everyone in their team. And I think this is something that he can really take from the Mercedes setup and bring over to the Williams setup and drive that team forward. And I think that's why I'm quite optimistic about this move from a Williams perspective. Obviously, it's a complete shift in strategy from Williams. Beforehand, they had Capito. Yes, he had experience in Formula One with Sauber, with McLaren, but with that pedigree, he also came out of retirement to work at Williams. It was always going to be a short-term strategy to bring Capito in. And I think now the fact that they've pivoted, they're thinking long-term, they've gone for James Vowels, someone who can be in and around the team for a very, very long time and instill a winning mentality. I know that he has said he doesn't want it to be a mini Mercedes, but I think some of those things that Mercedes have done, and obviously when Mercedes came into the Formula One grid, the way that they changed the ethos of the Formula One dynamic and the way they started to just be absolutely dominant, just wins upon wins upon wins for Mercedes, is something that he needs to try and draw over. Now, I'm not assuming that he is going to take a Williams team at the bottom of the Constructors' Championship all the way to the top in one season, especially considering he only starts on February 20th, which is only a couple of weeks before the testing actually starts in Bahrain and obviously Barcelona as well. But, you know, he can start to instill a few of those things before the season starts, and it's going to be a long-term project. I think we're looking at, again, Williams, maybe the next change in regulations. I know we said that in 2022, but it's probably going to be the next set of regulations in 2026, again, for Williams, where they really start to have that opportunity to change their fortunes. Having said all that, though, he does need to come in and make some big decisions very, very quickly. First and foremost, I think he needs to look at the finances behind the scenes. Obviously, we know that Nicholas Latifi is not going to be part of the team anymore. I think that is a massive positive move for Williams. The fact they're not holding on to this driver who clearly wasn't Formula One level overall, but he did bring a lot of cash to the Formula One team as well. The Canadian was a pay driver for a reason. And then on top of that, in the transition between 2022 and 2023, Williams have lost out on quite a lot of sponsorship deals. Obviously, it's really tricky being bottom of the pack. Lots of sponsorship deals are going to pull out. First of all, because there is not a lot of money around at the minute. And secondly, because you're a slow car. And if they can get themselves on a Mercedes, on a Red Bull, on a Ferrari, there's going to be more pictures of your branding if you're on one of those top teams as opposed to a Williams car at the back. back. And I think that's where we start to look at whether this Williams team is going to need a rebrand and whether or not there's a possible link to golf, there's a possible link to Porsche, and whether James Vowels can actually instill that into the team, can bring in one of those big sponsors. Do we completely change the Williams name? I really hope not, because obviously it's synonymous with Formula One. It's a little bit like Ferrari. If Ferrari ever changed their name, I feel like it would be very strange in Formula One. Williams kind of seems like one of those teams, but Formula One moves forward, and Williams clearly just don't have the setup there right now to push themselves forward in the way that they need to. If a Golf came in and just wanted to be Golf Formula One team, very unlikely. If a Porsche came in, though, and wanted to be Porsche Formula One team and completely get rid of that Williams name, I kind of would think about it if I'm James Vowels, and I would kind of think about how much does that history hold as opposed to being able to actually get some results for the team and being able to strive forward. And are you just wandering about the back of the grid being this historic Formula One team, or are you actually in there to win? Are you actually wanting to move forward? Are you actually wanting to win championships at some point in the future? You know, we're seeing Audi come in, they're completely ripping up the rule book, they're coming in for 2026, but they're already hiring people now. If you want to be at the top of that game, you have to be thinking that long term. You have to be thinking 5, 10, 15 years down the line sometimes with these Formula One teams, and what is going to be available to you. Who are the drivers coming up? What are the teams coming up? Who are the engineers that you can get hold of? What kind of money can you get back in your team? All of these questions need to be answered very, very quickly for James in the first few weeks of his tenure. And the last little point I want to touch on is obviously the fact that he's also coming into a team where Logan Sergeant is coming in as a rookie for the first time this season. And I think that'll be quite nice, but also a big challenge for him. He's not going to have a driver there that he can rely upon, and he knows really where the level is, right? With Alex Albon, he can kind of come in, he can see how Alex Albon did in 2022, and he has someone to judge that off of. With Logan Sergeant, it's tricky, right? When you're a first-time Formula One boss, are you too harsh? Are you too lenient? It's going to be very tricky for James to kind of judge where Logan Sergeant is going to be in terms of the Formula One grid, whether he's performing to the level he expected from him, or whether or not Logan Sergeant's just going to be that one season and maybe they have to transition away from him. I don't think he will be. I'm very excited to see Logan Sergeant in a Formula One seat, and I think he definitely deserves that Williams seat moving forward. But we know that Formula One is a meritocracy. You have to deliver in that Formula One car if you want to keep your seat in Formula One. It is very, very rare that you can get more than 3 seasons in Formula One without delivering something pretty spectacular. No, we're talking about the drivers that are under pressure this season. Your Yuki Tsunodas, for instance, the fact that he hasn't really delivered in that AlphaTauri yet, and he's had a couple of seasons. He's had a season in these 2022 regulation cars. He's now missing Pierre Gasly at AlphaTauri. Obviously, that's a video in and of itself, but I think the same thing applies for Logan Sergeant. He's maybe got a couple of years to show what he can do at Williams, but I think if Williams really want to take strides forward, they're going to be continually looking to freshen up and get the best drivers in possible, and talking to drivers with a little bit more experience that they can maybe push the team forward a little bit as well. Alex Albon was insanely good in 2022. Logan Sergeant needs to deliver as well. Otherwise, James Vowels has a tricky situation on his hands before he's even gotten started. But I'd love to know your thoughts in the comments down below. Is James Vowels the right man for Williams moving forward? Or was there someone else you expected to kind of take that Williams seat instead of him? It's kind of a tricky seat to take though, isn't it, when you're back of the pack? Is there anything that we can expect from Williams in this 2023 season other than being at the back of the pack again? Or do you think they can maybe take steps forward just because James Vowels is going to instill some of those ethoses that he's got from the Mercedes team? Not making it a mini Mercedes though. I'd love to know your thoughts, as I said, in the comments down below. If you did enjoy this video, leave a like on it, subscribe to the channel if you're new, and I'll see you next time.